We just found out all this information from the New York Times about ADHD for, decades. I'm sorry, I don't know if you had that up as a later topic, but, admitting that ADHD was totally, just totally over prescribed and
it makes men short.
And it makes men short.
Yep.
And it's, it's not that big of a deal. And yet so even if you don't have that, you still have TikTok and you still have Instagram, and you don't necessarily know what that does to developing minds.
We don't know at all what it does.
In terms of the dopamine, in terms of responses for anyone growing up. That's why I keep my kids off screens as much as possible.
The thing is, it's not until a guy is older does he start to understand height. And you've got a lot of people online. There are subreddits for short guys. And they talk about how, it's not fair or whatever. There's the women who say 6'6", 6 feet tall, 6-pack, and 6 figures. According to the New York Times report, according to the report from the New York Times, it was making men an inch shorter than their peers without actually solving any of the underlying symptoms.
I mean, and again, this is all, by the way, this is all stuff that, the crunchy, Maha people have been saying for years.
Yeah.
But you would be condemned as an RFK psychopath, sycophant, et cetera, kind of thing if you talked about it last week. But now that you've talked about it this week, it's like, well, according to the New York Times. So one of the questions that I have, though, is what does this mean politically, right? Do you think that it had anything? So we all know that the millennial generation had a lot of weird stuff happen to them, a lot of terrible stuff happen to them, a lot of just trauma associated with those formative years. But we don't really talk about the massive over-medication of millennials the way that we probably should, because I think that's clearly stunted a lot of the emotional and psychological development of millennials, just as much as Iraq and the global war on terror and 9/11 and the great financial crisis, global financial crisis, et cetera, that when you throw the massive Ritalin and Adderall on top of that, and you're like, gee, I wonder why they hate the system so much. I wonder why they have so much resentment. I wonder why they think they can't do anything. Probably because they've been told their entire lives by everyone that was put in a position of authority over them that something is wrong with you and you can't do anything and you need a pill, and you've been medicating yourself since you were a child.
Yeah. You know what I think is really crazy about this story? He was born in 2008. God. Right? We are old. Wow. It's just crazy to think that it doesn't take that much time
Got old boys.
grow a terrorist.
No, it doesn't. No.
That's the scary thing. That other guy from the other story.
So the homegrowns.
The homegrowns.
Trump's
going to lock them up, send them away.
Lock up the homegrowns.
They are apoplectic of us. But we'll get to that in a second. But with this other guy, he was 38. This Cody Balmer, I think his name was.
Yeah.
He had a family.
38 years old, wife and kids. And socialism doesn't work out well for socialists, as we've warned them repeatedly.
I don't understand how someone can come to the conclusion that all these bad things are happening. I have a family that I have to take care of. So the most positive course of action I can come up with is firebombing the governor's mansion.
I mean, most criminals aren't thinking.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
that's why they look, in the first place. But
I often ask myself when I see these stories about bank robbers and criminals, and I'm just thinking, why don't they just apply themselves to make money and get better jobs? I was like, oh, wait, right. If they had the capacity to do that, they wouldn't go and rob places. They'd literally be doing it. That's the problem. They can't. Their brains don't work.
Yeah, I actually was in it's the one story I tell about this, I guess. So I was in Intel training at one point, and I was in this course that's sort of like a joint course that's taught everywhere. And we actually had a retired NYPD homicide detective who was in teaching the course, and they gave us this scenario, and there was all these clues, and we had to sort of figure out where this woman had gone missing from an office in New York, and we had to figure it out. And it was just a scenario kind of thing, how to analyze reports and things like that. I remember I came up with this completely outlandish, everything was combined, everything was working behind the scenes kind of scenario. And this I was maybe I don't know, like my 20s, and the detective was like, look, most criminals aren't that smart. If they were, they wouldn't choose crime in the first place.
Right.
And it was literally she was just having an affair with her boss, and it just kind of got
look, there are dudes on the road that sell bottles of water.
Yeah.
I mean,
I knew a dude. Let me tell you, I knew a guy who would go to State in Madison, I think, down in Chicago, lay down against a light post, the street light post, with a empty Folgers can, and he'd go to sleep.
Yep.
And he'd wake up with $300 in it.
Yeah.
oh, absolutely.
And he'd buy heroin with it, which is unfortunate.
That's very unfortunate.
We're looking at this guy wrong. The Josh Shapiro guy. We're looking at him all wrong. He is he's truly found out that socialism is so bad for him that this is the only way he can afford a divorce.
Ugh.
Right. It's just, I think it comes down to, taking accountability for yourself and your life and all the problems that you might have. And instead of taking the honest and often harder route, they perpetuate a lie, or they run with a lie because that's just simply easier than coming to terms with reality.
100%.
And they find themselves in these situations where they brood and end up acting on it.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.